Hey guys, Nick here, and today we will be seeing if Shane can actually do better than Jesus did in the original and combat the Whisperers successfully at the cemetery, or if this means the true end of Shane. This is part 21 to this awesome remake of What If Rick Spared Shane. Now we open up where we left off before. Shane seeing Jesus about to risk his life for these supposed evolved walkers, but he is done losing people and seeing people die at this point, especially after he's betrayed the group multiple times. Does everything he can to climb over the wall, whack Jesus out of the way, and stage his own assault against the walkers, or, half walkers, half whisperers. You guys know what I mean. Anyways, Shane being Shane is able to take out the zombies, not the whisperers, but the zombies successfully. And it seems that nothing's going wrong yet, and Shane is actually doing a really good job. But then there comes a problem. The first whisperer, the one who specifically killed Jesus, attacks, surprising Shane. But, like I said, Shane being Shane, even though he is not in the best of his prime because of Negan, he is still able to fight the Whisperer off. Although, it does take effort, so it's kind of a mixed bag for the fight. But Shane is able to fight the Whisperer off. Tries to grab for his shotgun, but each attempt is foiled by the Whisperer. So, at this point, it's melee weapons and pure fisticuffs at this point. But Shane is still doing all he can and is surviving, seemingly, and then, when he actually grabs a hold of the shotgun, just before the Whisperer can grab it, Shane uses the backside of it to whack the Whisperer straight in the face. And, because he had already fought him good up till this point, the Whisperer is knocked down. But just before Shane can shoot it, another Whisperer comes from behind, stabs him straight in the back, giving the Whisperer on the ground the chance to stab Shane straight in the chest, giving him a death similar to Dewey in Scream 5. If you've watched Scream, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched Scream, watch the movies. You'll get more as to what this death specifically means. Either way, it's a cool nod for the death that I feel Shane should have gotten in this story. But, unfortunately, my friends, Shane is dead here. This is the actual end to Shane. And this was almost, you could say, teased whenever he got tortured by Negan, but I feel that Shane's story should have gone this far for him to matter more than my original What If Rick Spared Shane, because he's done really good up till this point. So this was a proper spot, I feel, to kill him off. After this happens, you can imagine the shame, anger, sadness that Rick feels when he yells out, pulls out his python, and shoots both the Whisperers down. Other Whisperers try to attack also after this, but with Rick being insanely mad and upset, and Michonne, Lori, and Magna and Yumiko, Daryl, all of them being by Rick's side, every Whisperer and zombie at the cemetery this time are killed. And after that, the group can phase on the Whisperers at the bridge. And that plays out pretty much the same, except Rick is far more angry, and he's here. And it all goes the same pretty much until Lydia is unmasked. Because with Rick being there and Shane literally just being offed, Rick wants nothing more than to just put a bullet in her head, to just feel better in some kind of way. Because after all this time forgiving Shane and him going through the worst kind of torture because of Negan, and because of all that, Shane's gone. And Rick feels kind of responsible for everything that's happened, and that he could have done something, because he wasn't the one who killed Shane this time. It was a Whisperer, no less. An evolved walker from the looks of it, and now they're actually people. It's just a lot to take in, but Rick knows as well as anybody else that Lydia here, well, Lydia, who we then know as Lydia, they don't know her name yet, she is pretty much the only clue they have as to where the leader of these people are, the Whisperers, and that there will be a time to grieve for Shane, but it's not now. So, the group goes to the hilltop, like before, with a lot more exceptions of people. Lydia is imprisoned, but like I said in the last part, and now I'm actually going to touch base on that more, Lydia and Henry won't have the relationship in this timeline. Now, why is that? If I didn't already touch base on it enough. Because Mika is with Henry here, because I felt that for Mika, Benjamin, and Henry, I feel would be the best possible relationship. So that means that I feel that Mika would keep Henry from drinking and getting into trouble, which means that Henry wouldn't get into the cell, which means that they wouldn't talk with Lydia, and that whole relationship is not going to happen. Does that mean that Lydia is going to be left out in the dust as a lone character? No, I'm not going to throw Lydia to the side like that. She will get a relationship, but I'm not going to touch base on that now. It will be for a future part. Just know that she and Henry are not going to get together. Anyways, with that out of the way, Lydia still does get interrogated by Daryl, but it's Daryl alone who gets all the information out of her, or maybe Rick, someone like that. I wouldn't know who would specifically interrogate her at this point. I feel that it would be mainly Daryl, but with Henry not down in the cell, I feel that Daryl would get the information out of her alone. Now here's another thing we gotta talk about. Small one. Since the Saviors are all dead, I mean all of them, that means that Luke alone is going to get kidnapped by Alpha. It's a small thing, I know, but it's something I still feel that needs to be brought up. Any small thing could mean a big difference. So, yeah, I don't know why I'm explaining that either. I just feel like I needed to. Anyway, Negan, being allowed by all the other members of the group, is allowed to talk to Lydia because, as far as he's presented and told to the group, he's good with kids because he was a gym teacher. Especially what he told Rick whenever he told his story about Lucille and everything. Because remember, he explained his backstory to actually the group. It wasn't a flashback by himself this time. So, he talks to Lydia, gets to know her a little, what happened to her, and it's a much nicer approach from what Daryl did, except Daryl later came off as nice after she came off with information. Sorry, I stuttered a little bit there, tried to find the right words. Anyways, with that little interaction and that segment of the story out of the way, we get into Alpha and the Whisperers, conveying on Hilltop, wanting Lydia back. And it's going to be much different this time from Rick just standing up on a high post, talking to her, and then the Whisperers getting gunned down. The Whisperers are actually going to matter here, like they did in my original What If Rick Spared Shane. Because Shane just got killed. Rick goes down to the gates, like Daryl did, and goes to talk to Alpha, because he wants to make it clear that he is in no position to not only not give Lydia back, but to have any kind of deal with these people whatsoever, and makes it very clear to Alpha that they are not giving Lydia back, and that these people, your people, are the ones that killed Shane, and that even if that Shane wasn't killed by them, they're not giving Lydia back. And Shane definitely now being dead thanks to her people, there is no way in crap that Lydia is coming back. And that if they don't leave right now, every single one of them are going to know what thousands of bullets feel against their skin. And Rick means this sincerely and truthfully, because we all know that Rick was a man of his word. Alpha, hearing this, definitely is a little taken aback. Not scared, but taken aback. And she still remains strong as to Lydia returning with her. And that she could care less about Shane, really, because we all know what Alpha was like. And says that they should really consider the deal. And brings out Luke alone tied up. And because of this, you can't really say no anymore to this. And as much as Rick just wants to kill her right now, because, like I said, Shane just got killed, he knows, just as well as everybody else does, that there's no other choice here. I don't want to kill Luke. Luke hasn't done so much in the long run, not even in the original story, but he still matters as a part of the group. So Lydia, who wasn't out in the cabin alone because no Henry, is taken out of the cell and ultimately given back to Alpha. And, Alpha smacks her and, that whole deal. Anyways, back in the kingdom parts, Ezekiel, Jerry, and Carol are all going to do that movie thing that they did in the original story, except it's different here because, for one, Ezekiel's still in his king state because he hasn't lost any of his men or any of his people. And, speaking of which, Shiva is still around, which definitely boosts his morale up to staying king. Morgan is still around, being an extra helper and fighter. And Benjamin is still around. And that's the key thing for Ezekiel too, which got him to really hate Negan near the end of The Walking Dead. Back in Hilltop, Negan talks to Rick about trying to get Lydia back. Because especially after seeing what Alpha did to her, smacking her and everything, she is not in good hands with Alpha, and even Rick has to admit this. And Rick, now finally having a moment to actually grieve for Shane and calm his thoughts, agrees that Negan can go out and try and get Lydia back, because he can't be bothered to do it, because if he did, he'd probably end up killing her in the process because of how out of state he is now, because this is a much nicer Rick finally going into Savage Rick, because he really hasn't lost anyone up to this point. Daryl and Connie go with Negan. Daryl, because he cared about Lydia too, and has gotten into kind of a better relationship with Negan. And as for Connie, she goes because she liked Daryl and for her family. I don't really know the specifics on why she went besides that, but there you go. Now, with so many things changing, no Henry, and Negan going with Daryl and Connie, how would this impact later events of the story? And for the Whisperers? That's where we leave things for the moment. Hope that you guys enjoyed this part, and I'm sorry that you guys really had to deal with the fact that Shane has finally died here, but as I said before, I feel that this was a proper place to actually give him a death, because he's done a lot up until this point, and really, there's not too much that I could see going for him in later parts, so yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed regardless, and I'll see you guys next time.